Hello everyone, welcome to another webinar from SQL Maestros. Today's topic is Plan Cache Fundamentals. My name is Amit Bansal. I have been working with SQL Server for more than 20 years now. I work at SQL Maestros and I primarily do two things. First, I do a lot of consulting work around performance tuning and optimization. My job is to identify root cause of bottlenecks, slowness, degrading query performance, etc. I diagnose it and I fix it. And my second thing is I learn everything about performance tuning with my consulting engagements and I bring them to these webinars, free tutorials, premium tutorials, a lot of AB SQL notes, video courses, master classes, etc. All of that I learn is available on sqlmaestros.com in form of tutorials, video courses, and master classes, and of course webinars like these. So over the years, performance tuning and optimization, query tuning, identifying server slowness, etc. has been my specialization. All right, so let's get started with today's topic, Plan Cache Fundamentals. I am looking at the participant list here in Zoom and we have more than 200 people as usual. It has been consistent over the last few weeks. So thank you very much for joining and I hope that next 60-minute content will be worth your time. We have precisely 3 sets of demos as you can see in the files here. So we have Plan Cache 1, file number 1, 2 and 3. 3 sets of demos. Before we start with the first set of demo, let's quickly do some housekeeping stuff. First things first, for all Q&A, please use the Q&A panel, not the chat window. Chat window can be used for some responses to my questions that I ask. But other than that, for questions, technical questions, please use the Q&A panel. Second thing, common question that comes all the time is about the webinar recording. So the answer is yes, this webinar is going to be recorded and it will be made available on sqlmaestros.com. So let's just browse, minimize this and quickly show you. This is sqlmaestros.com. I am on the website here. Make sure you visit sqlmaestros.com. The link is in the chat window and you can explore a lot of learning solutions that we have for you here. Now for the webinars, there is a recorded webinar section here on the menu. Click on that and you can go to browse recorded webinars. This is where you will land up recorded webinars, and any webinar that you subscribe to, you will get lifetime access. What you're going to see on this page is a lot of webinars are going to be available for free and some of them are very nominally priced. It just helps us to keep running this free show of webinars. Now there are so many of them. As you keep scrolling, you will find so many and so much content. So you would be like wondering, oh, do I really need to go and subscribe to each webinar individually? That's going to be painful. So we have something called as the membership level. Right on this here, the menu link, the first one says join. If you click on this, you get 2 options. You can take up the free membership. Free membership will cost you a lot of money, $0. I was kidding there. So free membership is free. It's not going to cost you anything. You're not going to punch in your credit card details or anything like that. Just take up free membership and it will give you access to all the free tutorials and all the free webinars. You might find that some of the paid webinars and premium tutorials are really useful and advanced. And if you want access to that, you can take up the premium membership, which comes at a nominal price. And of course, this is yearly. Now, whether you take a free or yearly, totally your choice. But now if you want to access the content based on your membership level, all you have to do is log in and go to our video lobby. So if you have free membership, go to the free content. If you have premium membership, go to the premium content and access everything that you want to. All right, this answers the question about webinar recordings. Let's get back to the VM. Let's get started with Plan Cache Fundamentals. Let's open up the first file, one_plancache.sql. All right, so plain speaking, let's put up things very simply. When you execute your query, SQL Server needs an execution plan to execute your select statement or your SQL statement. It generates that execution plan, of course, provided that execution plan does not already exist. The execution plan basically tells how your query is going to be executed, how the data is going to be accessed, how it's going to be sorted, etc., etc. And you can look up all of that in the graphical execution plan. We're going to see that as we move forward. Now, once your query is executed and the execution plan is generated, it is put up in a temporary cache called as plan cache. Now I use the word temporary. It is not really persisted, so to say, because when you, let's say, restart SQL Server, the plan cache is emptied out, right? And then you have to start from scratch. That's why I use the term it's not persisted. Now, this is all in memory, and in real world on your production box, you can have hundreds and thousands of plans living in the plan cache. The second question is, now that you have the execution plan in the plan cache, what is the purpose of storing it in the plan cache? Well, the idea is SQL Server believes and is very optimistic that your query might come again. And if it comes again, all it has to do is find out the old plan, the previous plan using which your query was executed, and just fetch it from the plan cache and use it for executing your query. Why? Because then SQL Server does not have to really consume the resources again to generate a new plan or generate the same plan again. So the whole idea is plan reuse, reusing an existing plan. Now, this of course brings us to a conclusion that generating an execution plan is an expensive operation. Yes, it is. It consumes a lot of CPU cycles, and of course sometimes it might be time consuming given how complicated your query is. So SQL Server really wants to save on those CPU cycles. In real world, you know how many queries come and hit SQL Server every now and then. Hundreds of them. Hundreds of users are working. Hundreds of users are firing their reports and stored procedures, etc. Now, for each request, think about if SQL Server was generating an execution plan afresh. This will take a lot of CPU cycles. So the idea is reuse the plan that is available in the plan cache. With this basic premise, let's get started, because this was a very, very quick overview of what the plan cache is, what the execution plan is, and the usage of it and the execution of it. And all of this is done by the optimizer, which generates, and the execution engine inside SQL Server, which executes the query using that execution plan. Now comes a lot of tricky things and internals about the plan cache, which I'm going to show you as part of the first demo. So I'm going to use Northwind 2 for the purpose of this demo. I don't believe I'm using Northwind 2. Anyways, okay, let's free the proc cache. Now this is the command free proc cache, dbcc free proc cache, that you can use to clear up the plan cache. Never do this on production. This is only for learning. This is only for these test and dev VMs where you're trying out and playing around. These statements should not be used on production boxes. Okay, that's a warning. Okay, so I've freed the proc cache. It just helps me to run my demos and cut down all the noise. Now, I have a very simple statement here. Select start from orders where customer ID is equal to Hanar. So let's select this and execute the query. Now, when the query gets executed, of course, behind the scenes, as I said, that SQL Server Optimizer has prepared an execution plan, and then that execution plan has been stored in the plan cache, and that plan has been utilized or leveraged by the execution engine to run the query. And you can see the result there in the results pane. Now let's fetch out that plan from the plan cache. So if you want to pick out plans from the plan cache, you have a DMV called sysdm exec cached plans. And I am joining this DMV with another dynamic management function called sysdm exec SQL text. So the cached plan DMV has an attribute called plan handle, and I'm using cross apply because this is a function. It's not a view. So we are using this plan handle from cached plan DMV and supplying it to this function. So this function takes one parameter, which is the plan handle. I'm supplying it here, which means I'm applying the function to every record, every row from this view. And of course, the others are some filters out here to just cut down some noise, which means I don't want the same query again. So let's go and execute this. And apart from a lot of other things you will see, you will find your own query. Okay, we are not looking at the plan right now. So we have the cache object type. It says as compiled plan. We have the object type, which is ad hoc. So what you see here is an ad hoc query, right? This is not a stored procedure or something. This is simply an ad hoc query. Now, so the object type says ad hoc query and the cache object type says compiled plan, simply because this is a plan that was compiled. Use count, how many times this plan has been used? Once. There are other attributes also which I have omitted out, and this is the text. Mind you, the text, the query text is coming from sysdm exec query text. Okay, you want to see the plan as well, which will come from another DMF, which is query plan. We'll do that a little later. The actual graphical execution plan. Which one? So let's go and select this again. Let's turn on actual execution plan. Of course, this execution plan that we're talking about, this also can be extracted from the DMV set of objects. All right, we'll do that a bit later. So I executed the query a second time, isn't it? So should the use count go up to 2 now? Let's just look into that. So here is your query, and now you can see use count is 2, right? So all that is being tracked. Okay, very, very simple and straightforward demo. Now let's go a little deeper. At each step, we are going to go one level deep. What are we doing now? So we are running the same select statement multiple times, but this time what we are doing, so just observe carefully. We say select star from orders where customer ID is equal to Hanar. Then we change the customer ID to chops, and then we put the Hanar back again. So we are going to free the proc cache and execute these 3 SQL queries. Let's go and execute this. Okay, so 3 times execution is done. I just want to prove that to you. So I'll take this up. 1, result set 1, second and third. Let's bring it down. Now my question to you is, if I run this same one again, how many plans will you see in the plan cache? Are you going to see 1? Are you going to see 2 plans? Or are you going to see 3 plans? Your responses in the chat window. Just type in 1, 2 or 3. How many plans will you see in the plan cache? I ran this query 3 times. What do you think? Let's just give it 5 seconds for your responses to come in the chat window. Okay, I'm watching. All right, lot of good responses. Great. So let's go and see this ourselves. Let's execute this and see what do you get. You get 2 plans in the plan cache. The first one was, of course, for chops, and the second one is for Hanar, or I should put it the other way. The first one is for Hanar and the second one is for chops. Why? Because the third execution was the same query again, which I said earlier. SQL Server wants to reuse the plan. So you can see the use count as 2. And because this query is different than this one, now there's a whole world about this parameterization thing, etc. Parameter value, automatic parameterization, forced parameterization, and parameter sensitive plans and whatnot. We'll get into that world, a bit into that world today. But of course, the more complicated part of it, we're not going to talk about that in this session. But anyway, right now, visibly, you know that this query is different from this one. So SQL Server prepares another plan for this. So yes, you have 2 plans in the plan cache. That's the right answer. Okay, let's move forward. Now we'll free the proc cache again, and I'm going to run the same set of queries again, what we did earlier, here and here. Now let's go and clear the proc cache again. I'm clearing the proc cache each time just to cut down on the noise, so that I just start from scratch. That's the whole idea, only so that it eases me in the demo. Okay, let's go and run this now. And how many plans will I see in the plan cache? Again, before I run this, answers in the chat window. How many plans do I see for these ones now in the plan cache? Quickly, friends. Yes, let's be super active. In the chat window, answers coming in. Thank you so much. Let's run this and see 1, 2 or 3. Now you will be a bit surprised, some of you, that there's only 1 plan in the plan cache, and look at the text of that plan. So this is the complete text that I selected. So if you can see, select star from whatever, Hanar, then again chops, and then again Hanar. You know why? Because if you compare this with this one, we had the go batch separator. So the plan that gets created the moment we encounter go, which is a statement terminator or the batch terminator, what SQL Server does here is, okay, let me just be technically super accurate. This semicolon here is the statement terminator and this one is the batch terminator. So what happens, SQL Server will prepare a plan for each batch here. That's why you get two plans here. But for this one, there is no batch terminator. So this entire thing is treated as one batch and that's why you get one execution plan. Now, these are the things that you got to know about the plan cache. Trust me, query tuning and optimization cannot be done without deep knowledge about the plan cache. And that's where we are getting into. These are very basic and very fundamentals to the plan cache. All right. So how many plans did we get? Of course, we got one plan because there were no batch terminators and this was treated as a single plan. Let's proceed forward. Okay, another tricky thing now. This is super interesting. Okay, Northwind 2, we'll free the proc cache. I'm going to execute this query now 1, 2, 3, 5 times. I'm going to execute this 5 times. Have a careful look at all the 5 instances of this query. Take a look. I'm sure you're going to figure out something weird, but yeah, keep it to yourself. Keep it to yourself. Don't put anything in the chat window just yet. Keep it to yourself. Look at all the 5 queries. Let's go and execute these 5 queries. Be ready with your answer as to how many plans will you see in the plan cache. We have 5 different queries here. Different or are they same? Yeah, we'll figure that out. Let's go and execute this. So 5 executions of the query are going on. Okay, done. All 5. Now, climax. Answers in the chat window first. We'll give it 5 seconds. How many plans will you see in the plan cache for this execution? Okay. Wow, interesting responses. Let's go and find this out. Let's go and execute this. And there you go. You will see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 different plans. 5 different plans. You know, early back in the days when I was learning this took me aback a little. I was a little surprised to figure out that, wow, all these queries are same. Didn't we just mention that SQL Server wants to reuse the plan because it wants to optimize the resource consumption, and these queries are same. Look at the parameter, like it's all Hanar everywhere. So aren't these queries same? Yes, on the face of it, as you see, these queries are same. This is the same select statement and the parameter values are same across all the 5 queries. So SQL Server should just have one plan and it should be reusing that plan. But this is not how it works. For SQL Server to reuse an existing plan, the incoming query should be textually, I repeat, should be textually identical to the previous instance. Now, if you look at all these 5 queries, though they are technically and logically same, they are textually not same, right? So if you compare, you can see that, for example, if you compare the first one with the second one, in the second one, there is a line break, right? Somewhere O is capital, here O is small. Somewhere in customer ID C is small, here C is capital. Look at the last one. In the parameter value itself, how SQL Server treats it differently. If you see this one and this one, they're exactly the same. The last 2 is just the parameter value has a small r at the end. So what SQL Server does is, if you look at all 5 of them, they are textually not the same because a small c is different than a capital C. As simple as that. And likewise, any extra space or punctuation or anything just makes it textually different. So that's why, because all these 5 queries are textually different, SQL Server will prepare 5 different execution plans. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking this is bad, right? Yes, this is bad, but this is how it works. And of course, there are solutions to it, or there are better things that we will come across just for now. So ad hoc queries. So we are right now looking into the world of ad hoc queries. There are no stored procedures. There are no compiled objects that we are dealing with. We're dealing with ad hoc queries. And this is the world of ad hoc query for SQL Server. And you need to know, for developers, this is very important because When these queries are coming in from client applications like ad hoc queries, they need to be textually identical for SQL Server to reuse an existing plan. Otherwise, think about this, like if these were 100 different executions, and let's just assume 100 different parameter values, right? Customer IDs may run into hundreds and thousands. And if each of these ad hoc queries coming with a different customer ID, gosh, SQL Server will create one execution plan for each query. And this is also termed as plan cache bloating. This is also termed as plan cache bloating because you will have so many single use plans in the plan cache, which means they are consumed or used only once, and that query is not coming back ever again. And the plan is just lying abandoned in the plan cache, consuming space or resources or whatever, but not being used again. Yeah, these are typical, problems so-called with SQL Server or with the database engine of popular databases, and you got to live with it, and you got to find optimized way of dealing with the plan cache, right? So right now we're looking into computer science here, and of course there are certain things that we can do, there are certain things we cannot do, etc. All right. Now we were talking about the world of ad hoc queries. So you saw that I was firing different types of select statements, and we were trying to figure out how many plans do we get in the plan cache. And mind you, all of them have the same execution plan, right? What execution plan? Let's go and select this and execute. All of them are these plans, right? A clustered index scan, as simple as that. But then they're all different because the queries were not textually identical. Okay. What if this query was encapsulated in a stored procedure, in a compiled object? Now things will become different, and many of you are probably looking at this solution. So what if this was a stored procedure? Okay, let's create a stored procedure now. I'm going to create a proc called plan test with a variable here, okay, parameter, customer ID, varchar 20, and a very simple statement, select star from orders where customer ID is equal to @customer ID. So let's go and create this stored proc. I think this stored proc already exists. Okay, it's already there, no worries. Now we are going to execute this stored procedure how many times? 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 times. Okay. Now if you look at the stored procedure here purposely, and now you are pretty smart and well versed, you know what I've done. Look at the parameter values. Capital, all caps. Here R is small. Here it's all small. Here it's like a zigzag, capital, small, capital. Okay, we're trying to just play around. So ideally, in that world of ad hoc queries, you would have got 4 plans for this execution, isn't it? But now this is a stored procedure. Stored procedures behave differently. They encourage planned reuse, compiled objects, and that's why stored procedures are so popular in the database world. So these are going to be prepared and compiled objects. Let's free the cache and execute all these for execution, all done. Now let's go and check out how many plans we have in the plan cache. Let's go and execute this. Friends, there you go. We have only one plan in the plan cache, and the beauty is, look at the use count. This has been used 4 times. In the first execution, it was created and it was consumed also, and in all other 3 instances it was used. So the total use count is 4. So in the world of stored procedure, when you execute the stored procedure for the first time, the plan gets created. Now when I'm using this term like generated, created, etc. Now creation of the plan, the execution plan is a lot of things inside that black box of optimizer, right? The syntax checking, the optimization phases, etc. That's a complicated thing, and we are not getting into that. So I'm going to use these terms interchangeably, created, generated. What I really mean here is that you have the execution plan. Finally, you have the execution plan. So we have this one execution plan now, and it has been used 4 times. Now the interesting thing, look at the object type. Earlier, in all other previous examples, the object type was ad hoc, and now you can see the object type is proc. So SQL Server has identified it. It's a compiled plan, but the object type is proc. So we have seen very basic, very fundamentals of how the inside the plan cache, how things behave, how SQL Server will treat an ad hoc query versus a stored procedure, and how it treats A little bit of what we have seen is about parameters, textual identicalness, some DMVs that can help you to extract the execution plan details. I've not yet extracted the plan itself from the plan cache. We will do it in the next upcoming demo. All right, friends, let your questions come in the Q&A window. I will continue to answer them. This brings us to the end of the first demo, right? The first set of demos. Before we move on to the second set of demos, I'll just quickly make you aware of the master class. There were a few questions coming in earlier and we continue to receive emails. If you go to the master classes section, and there is a link here called upcoming master classes, I've given that link in the chat window. This is one of our most popular masterclass. This is a 40-hour program called SQL Server Internals Troubleshooting and Performance Tuning. This is a very popular masterclass primarily because of the depth and breadth of the content. If I just skim around all of this and just scroll down, you will look at the modules. Right from module 1, we start with SQL Server architecture, scheduling and weights, and straight away jump into performance tuning with CPU, with TempDB, with IO, with memory. Then we go into the world of concurrency and transaction, and then straight away everything to do with query tuning and index tuning and statistics and whatnot. And of course, more deeper into plan cache and recompilation tools, extended events, baselining, monitoring, and all the new performance features of recent versions of SQL Server. This is a 40-hour live online masterclass, which is happening in the month of December. So if you're watching this recording, it is in the month of December 2023. And of course, we will be coming up with more classes, more schedules of it in future weeks and months. The best part here is that apart from attending live, the entire class gets recorded and you get lifetime access to the recordings. I think this is a huge bet because I know a lot of good SQL Server trainers and experts online, when they deliver such classes, they do not give out the recordings. And even if they give out the recordings, it's like for just a few weeks or a few months. But here you get the recordings for a lifetime, the complete 40 hours. How do we divide these 40 hours? How do we deliver them? Well, of course, one important feedback I have from the audience is to balance their job timings and learning. So we do 4 hours each day, Monday to Friday. And we do 2 consecutive weeks. So this brings us to 40 hours, 20 hours in week 1 and 20 hours in week 2. Well, these are the dates for this instance of this year 2023. And then we will have new batches for 24. Of course, maybe 2 instances in 24, one in the beginning and one in the later end of the year. So if you are someone who wants to learn and get deeper into SQL Server, lot of practical stuff, real world demos and deep dive content around performance tuning and query tuning and optimization. That's the focus. If you want to go deeper into that world, then this performance tuning masterclass might be the right pick for you. And even if the time zone is a little not conducive to you, maybe you could just opt for it and get access to the recordings, or maybe try to attend a few things online. So the timings are all set up here. You can check the date, the time, and see if it's good for you. The link is there in the chat window. Do take a look and explore. Okay, let's go back to the VM and continue with our demos, with our content. If you want to watch the remainder part of the webinar and all the remaining demos, you can subscribe to the webinar on sqlmaestros.com and get lifetime access to the recorded webinar. All you have to do is just go to sqlmaestros.com, click on the recorded webinar section and get access to all the webinar recordings. There are many of them. Some of these webinars are free and some of them are very nominally priced. So the ones that you're interested in, you can subscribe to them and get lifetime access. Now, because there are so many webinars, subscribing to each webinar might be a bit cumbersome. So we have another option, which is SQL Maestros membership. So the first link on SQL Maestros says join. If you click on that, it will bring you to SQL Maestros membership. Things are very simple. There are two membership levels. The first level is free, where you get access to all the free webinars and all our tutorials and demos, more than 200, 300 demos and tutorials. All you have to do is just become a free member. You're paying nothing and you get access to all of them. So you don't have to go and subscribe to each webinar individually. Just become a free member and then explore the free video lobby. So if you go to the video lobby here, there is something called as free content where you get access to all of that. But then all of us are interested in advanced content, isn't it? And that is where premium membership comes into play. So the webinars that are paid, and there are many advanced tutorials and demos. If you want access to all of them, you can become a premium member and pay a nominal price, which is annual membership. Once you do that, you can explore the premium video lobby. If you go to the premium video lobby from here, or just go to the video lobby and click on premium content, you can see all the paid webinars and all the advanced tutorials and demos and get access to all of them with your annual membership. Anyway, choice is yours. There's a lot of content on SQLmaestros.com, and you can also explore the YouTube membership level as well. So you have free content on YouTube channel, and you can also join and become a member of SQL Maestros on YouTube, where you can pay a monthly fee, get access to all the paid webinars and advanced content. So in summary, you can go to SQLmaestros.com and become a member, or you can become a member on YouTube also. Becoming a member on SQLmaestros.com turns out to be a little cost effective with the annual membership in comparison to YouTube monthly membership. But anyway, choice is yours, whichever platform you wish to use. Happy SQL.